comfort of socks and underwear.
Really?
Yeah,
Can we
Very
have
good.
this meeting in socks?
you can.
Alright, you golden? Everything good? Alright, we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order of the Operations and Planning Committee for the OJRSA. And with that, our first agenda item here is a public session. Any comments from the public? Chris, you're the only, Steve.
Yeah. No, I'm here for
You're here for-
supporting Chris's on a
Gotcha.
couple motions later down.
Well, that's why the rest of us are here to support
These
Chris.
things all help in good, so everything good. Put it back to lunch.
Alright, we'll move on to presentation discussion items, and, now we will turn this over to Chris.
Well, I'm glad Kyle came in here as well, so, saw before the meeting, everybody was looking over this update sheet. So I'll not go over it line by line, but we'll go ahead and answer any questions that you may have about any of these projects.
Is this the same that was emailed?
It is.
Okay.
On the CCTV work at Martins Creek, is that, that's been completed?
Which number?
17?
17.
Looks like.
Yes, it's been completed. All the CCTV work has been completed. There's still some, I think there may be some smoke
We got
testing
one, yeah, one little section
that
to
still
do,
needs to be
that needs.
done.
Been looking at it.
Nothing
Nothing.
huge, I mean, they did find a couple of them, like under the road at 123.
Yeah, that
That's
picture
right.
I showed
Yeah,
you in the
yeah.
Yeah,
video
yeah,
of that.
Remember that?
that separation.
Yeah,
If you go to page 3, on item number 7, the generator installation on pump station, why would you want it to be a portable generator?
we had just talked about, because they removed it from a pump station years ago,
Uh-huh.
and it was just sitting here at the plant, cause it was still operational.
Oh, okay.
And in my mind, I was thinking, hey, well, you know, not just to use it at this pump station, we could put on a trailer and use it if we had, you know, the need for it. It's still up in the air. I mean, we talked about it. It's not necessarily a thing that we might do.
So that's not a pump station that you needed all the time?
No, it's a little
Oh,
pump
okay,
station.
okay.
So it would definitely help. It don't have a generator.
Oh,
What is
yeah.
it, 45 kV or something?
Yeah, yeah. And it's, you know, it's just, it's a small station. So it will either sit there all the time, or it's gonna be on a trailer
Okay,
that we
gotcha.
can move to another little, if we have to. That's just my thinking.
Yeah.
But
So if it was a portable, it would just stay there at the pump
it
station?
would.
You wouldn't ever have to worry about somebody stealing it or anything?
I mean, you always have to worry about that, but they can cut the fence and go in.
Oh, okay, it's fenced.
It's fenced in. Oh, yeah.
And then Chris, on 21, is this the admin building?
It is, the admin building, the bulk of that cost is gonna be the replacement of the roof for the chlorine building.
Oh, okay, so you don't have any water issues, leaks or anything going on here?
We do,
Oh,
we
really?
do, yes, but it's not from the roof. So, you know, a number of years ago, this would have been in 2017 when I started. This was before the building renovation had taken place. There was considerable leakage in the building itself. It leaked on file cabinets, you know, we had, and it was thought to be that all of our problems were with the roof itself. So the building renovation took place, it addressed most all, if not, you know, over, you know, we found a few here and there that were corrected after the roof was fixed. We haven't had any problems with leaks associated with the roof, but in the office where I am, when we would get heavy rains and winds, it would leak around the window.
Okay.
So I was like, this is, you know, we couldn't figure out how this was happening.
Yeah.
So I spoke with the company that did the building renovation, told them what was going on. They recommended that we talk to a forensic engineer to find out what the problem was. So we did. We used a company out of Charleston, and they came up and said that brick, that the way these buildings were built when it was done back in the late 70s and early 80s, that is not a technique that's used any longer. And I may be misremembering some of what he said, but the gist of it is brick is porous, and that a surprising amount of water will permeate through the brick and is supposed to have a way to drain on the backside of that wall. And there's little portholes that you can go and look and see outside the perimeter at the brick where the water is supposed to drain back out from behind the walls. Well, for whatever reason, whether it's the drains have gotten blocked or whatever the case may be, I'm having water during heavy rains dripping inside right around the whole window to the point where the drywall is now coming off.
Oh, my. Okay.
So that fix, I think that was not considered to be an extremely expensive fix, but there were some other things that they had recommended that we do as well to keep, with downspouts, things like that, to keep water from backing up onto the roof
Mhm.
and to also keep it, try to move it away from the building itself.
Okay.
So it's taking those actions here, but again, the bulk of it is the replacement of that chlorine
Okay.
filter.
Gotcha.
Chris has all these plants on his window sill, so when it rains, it gets wet.
Yeah, the plants can stay, but I've gotta move like pictures,
Everything,
and I've got a station there that is a cabinet, I've gotta push all that stuff away when we're anticipating
Oh, wow. Okay.
heavy rain, I push it out to the middle of the floor to keep it from getting wet.
I thought this was a fairly new building, I didn't know it'd been renovated.
No, it was built in the late '70s when the plant was built, and it was renovated. The renovation was completed in 2019.
All right, thank you.
But, that's one of the things that we fix. I just, I think it would be kind of common knowledge, at least it was for us, that brick would shed water very well. As you know, it's really porous like concrete is. That's what that addresses.
Thank you.
So Dave, if you always known this building to be like this,
Oh, yeah.
I'm too old.
Well, no, I didn't move here until '86.
Right.
Trust me, the first place I went to was not the sewer authority. I went to the bar.
There's some pictures of what this place used to look like in this book. And you should glance through it.
Okay. Yeah, good deal. All right.
The upgrades are, it's time, same place.
Well, I mean, look at this place, it's great meeting.
I'm really astounded that it's
Yeah,
this
great
old.
meeting.
They've done a great job with it.
So we had folks like economic development folks, they were embarrassed to bring people out here, like they wouldn't bring potential.
Really?
Yeah, they wouldn't bring
Okay.
people by here.
You gotta be careful, cause Lynn will start talking now. Lynn remembers.
Why, I wanna go back to those old
Yeah.
chairs that we used to have around the board table.
Yeah, it's like that paneling boardroom that we had, the paneling boardroom
Yeah, and
with all the drawing stuff in the corner in the back.
And there were still ashtrays
Oh my God.
in there.
Wow, we are talking.
Come a long way.
Yeah. So, any other questions about any of these items?
Looks like we're moving right along.
And Steve will talk about one of the ones that's on that final page, just in the green and white, that we're at a milestone,
Oh, yeah, look at that.
or approaching a milestone with that project for the dewatering equipment, but that'll be later on the agenda.
Ready to move on now?
I'm ready.
We'll do that. Before we hit D, let me just, go off the schedule here and just, welcome Laramie to our little band of merry men, if you will. It's good to have you here. Scott represented well while he was here on the committee, and so it's just, Laramie, again, it's good to have you, not just on the board, but on our committee.
Well, I'll just reach out by saying I'm no Scott Paris, I promise you. But I will do my very best to serve you guys as good as I can, the people.
There you go. Yeah, we're not looking for Scott Pierce, we're looking for Larry
But it is a habit around here, the new folks have to buy breakfast.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay.
You just keep that in mind.
What Dave was trying to tell you, you've always fallen down the job. You guys play catch up now. Alright, well, let's go ahead and move on to action items to recommend to the board for consideration. Approve, number one.
Well, we had one other item that we skipped over, if I may, before this.
On the current projects?
No, number two, the DES review of the draft revision of the regulation. Do you not see that?
No, no,
I don't have that one.
No.
Huh,
no.
interesting.
No,
Wonder
it's not on
if
there.
she must have used the agenda before the non-modified one, I guess. But doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Well, I'll address it down below. Does it state on yours still?
The only thing I had under presentation and discussion items are just the current
yeah,
project.
current project.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Yeah, there must be.
And I printed one off from the house too, so.
You just wanna cover that under E, the director's report, whatever you got,
Well, I've covered under
under the next
under
two.
E2, the sewer use regulation update.
Alright,
Okay.
you good?
Yeah.
Alright. We'll go ahead and move on then to D1. Approve executive director to execute agreement with Harper General Contractors Incorporated for no fee to establish the contract terms for the CMAR contract as a function of the OJRC project, blah, blah, as recommended by KCI Technologies, pending funding agency approval. So this is where Steve is gonna kick in the program.
Mhm.
Right, and it's got Chris's name down here too, so y'all tag team as necessary on this one.
So this first one, so as Chris mentioned, we're approaching a big milestone on the dewatering upgrades project. At the end of the month, on the 30th, Harper's going to present us their 90% GMP. We've reviewed the 60% pricing for the project. It was a little bit over budget what we needed to be, so we had some good review meetings, and we're going to pare down the electrical scope. And then we think by 90% at the end of the month, we'll be ready to kick it off and start construction. And so this is to approve the contract language for the project. It's the standard EJCDC form. They now have one for CMAR projects. So it's not the design bin build that we've been using for a number of years, but it is still EJCDC, and it's a lot of the same language that has. So this is the for all the contract language. And then because it's a CMAR, the price and schedule is actually done in Amendment 1. And so that'll be the second item on there. But so this is just the EJCDC construction contract to start construction.
Chris, you have anything to add to
I
that?
do not.
I mean, is this, I didn't see the word no-brainer on there, but is this what that is? I mean,
Pretty much.
It is, the challenge, we gotta make sure that we get the cost down to where we're at or below what we have for the SCIP funding. So KCI, they did the Flat Rock pump station, that replacement, which was completed back in summertime, maybe early, late summer. And that came in under the projected budget for what we had, so it left us a little bit more money. Then the other SCIP project that we had was the conveyance system rehabilitation. And that came in under what what the bid came in under what was projected for it. So we have a little more money than we thought, because this one, we had, was it like $2.8 million?
It was like 2.8.
And this one initially was, when we first started, was it like close to
Yeah,
$5 million?
it's 5, yeah.
So we've been through the process, going through and trimming it back. So as long as we can get it trimmed to what we have in SCIP availability, then we'll be okay. And that's, I think, is where we'll get to that part of it, number 2. But
we have to do this in steps.
Correct.
So this will be, so, in other words, what we need is a motion to approve for the executive director to execute the agreement with Harper General Contractors. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Okay, is there any other questions or discussion? on that? Hearing none, all four say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good, that passes. Move on to number two, approve for the executive director to execute contract amendment number one with Harper in the amount to be determined later this month, but at a cost not to exceed the available SCIP grant funds for the release and authorization of work for the dewatering upgrades project as a function of OJRSA project number that as recommended by KCI, pending the funding agency approval and authorization. So again, Steve and Chris, that's pretty straightforward there too.
Right. So, we're meeting with Harper's currently pricing up the 90% based on some of the value engineering, some of the scope, adjustments we've been making. And so they'll be presenting to us their 90% number, their final number. We're gonna go off the 90% number. And I believe that's the 30th. And so we wanted to get this in front of the committee ahead of the board meeting. The really tight thing on this project is meeting the schedule to get the SCIP funds spent and have the project construction completed by the middle of 2026. So in order to meet that schedule, we've got to.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a very common thing throughout the state on these SCIP funds.
Oh yes.
You know, because, you know, even the estimates themselves had to have a 25%.
Mhm.
You know, on their contingency, so I can see this going across the state. I've had conversations with Bonnie off the record,
Mhm.
and, you know, so I'll leave that alone in our open meeting here, but,
Yeah.
you know, this, I see this being pretty common, you know, thing will be happening.
Yep.
So, Chris, you have anything to add to that?
I do not, I would recommend going ahead and proceed, because we're on that tight timetable.
Okay, well, do I hear a motion to approve for the executive director to execute contract amendment number one with Harper?
Motion approved.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. Okay, is there any other discussion or question about that? Very good, all four say aye. Any against? Very good, that passes. And we'll move on to executive director's report on item E.
I don't really have any regulatory or compliance matters, but I will say that, as we have received Monday and Tuesday, a couple more complaints regarding hydrogen sulfide. So if you can have them provide us with an update as to where that is, so we can find out what the, trying to troubleshoot, figure out if the problems of operation of equipment are running out of chemical, or have you heard anything back yet, Kyle? So, so Allison has some idea.
Chris is aware of that too, so Chris Bradley is aware of that, and, we spoke yesterday. And so he's gonna dive in, he went by, and he comes into work that way, so he tends to go by there, on his way in. And, if he's got a smell, he immediately just stops what he's doing and says, okay, what's going on? But when he went back out there, once we got that email, that was a couple hours out later, and went back and he couldn't smell anything, and he didn't come through there at one of all times.
And my guys went out there yesterday, and they didn't smell anything when they went. But
Well, I think, and I wonder if it has to do with that pump starts, like
It
what,
does.
with Paul Wilkie, which, if we can get it, we're apparently getting it to the pump station, maybe with the odors not happening, whether it's captured in that carbon filters that we have in the manhole or whatever it is.
Right.
But when that pump
Turns
kicks
on.
on and
Turns
turbulates
it
the water, then it may cause that odor to form there for a short period of time.
Is the pump an automatic, does it come on automatically at certain levels, or is it on a schedule?
I think it's on a timer like ours.
You talking about our pump station?
You talking about the pump station or the chemical pump?
The pump station.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
pump station's on floats.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when it hits a certain level,
So it's not just early in the morning or late in the
It
evening?
can be anytime,
so again, and I don't know where Kyle is, I know that we're looking to get some type of built-in detector for sulfides.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I got an email from Hawk yesterday, and they've scheduled to bring out a demo, unit, the 26th, 27th, and 28th of this month.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be an inline sulfide meter that we're gonna be able to put out there. Cause sulfides is the actual, what, the conversion to get hydrogen sulfide. So we're gonna see what, with their demo unit, what it actually reads, and kind of have a better understanding.
Has anybody ever determined whether it's at danger levels? I mean,
We've had it at danger levels
Have you?
before. I think we've got it
We're talking about
documented over
H2S,
200
correct.
ppm, haven't we? It's been over 200 ppm,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think,
That's right.
before. So yes, we've had it at
Absolutely.
dangerous levels.
where
before,
was
but
that?
that's
Where did you indicate
That's
that?
in the manhole. Now, in ambient,
Right,
you know,
dissipates.
it's,
Right.
we have not had it at that level, but within the manhole itself, we wouldn't be able to put a person in there.
Really?
Or we'd have to evacuate out right away.
Okay.
You know, those upstream pump stations would
Sure.
kick on.
Sure.
But yeah, we do have it documented
If,
at that.
if you think of it, you might wanna email him that graph that came out about 3 months ago, 2 months ago, that was showing the chemical feeds and how everything sort of started improving. He might wanna see that.
Well, we send that, and I think we send it to Seneca when we download the data. I think we've been sending that on. And what I mentioned at the annual members meeting and I think I mentioned it there and board meeting too, perhaps, was that all indications were in the, whether it's from the data that we were seeing itself or from the point of contact that we've had out there, has been that everything was better. And I think she even stated in the email that it was all but non-existent. So we don't know what's changed.
Mhm.
That's, between then and then the New Year's Eve hit that we had, and then the two that we had on Monday and Tuesday. Now, there may be some that say, well, it stunk when you came in the gate of the plant today, but that to me smells like chicken litter and not the
That's a
plant.
carcass somewhere.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
said
that's-
something.
Yeah, it's not the plan.
That I think is it smells like chicken litter to me. Is it to you?
Yeah.
So, but the numbers, what we're seeing over there, Mr. Hinkle, as far as, and I think I just when I send it out, and I think I attached all the graphs
Right.
that OSHA states, because we won't go with something that somebody else says as far as what the odor detection thresholds are. Is it in like the 10 part
10
per
part per
billion
Right.
range?
It's large, but the only reason I was asking about it is I'm familiar with the H2S gases working in the oil field, okay, because we deal with it all the time when I was there. And it's, in your case, what I've found is that it changes, all the dynamics change in this thing as you go along through the seasons.
Right.
Because different humidity brings it down on the ground, then you have, that temperature, then it's this and it's that. And truthfully, I don't know how you're ever going to get it.
Well, that's
That
where
way.
we've got to get
You know
it
what I'm
at the
saying?
source. It's gonna have to eventually be fixed at the source, because we've already had a manhole collapse, a concrete manhole collapse that,
Deteriorated from
likely deteriorated from the
Really?
hydrogen sulfide gas.
How-
That's one of the
where did
manholes.
you see it deteriorating at?
It was it one manhole downstream of the force main discharge? I think it was. So we've gone
I
and
got here, but I think that's what it was.
yeah, it happened I think in 2019. It was the very first sewer overflow that we had that's documented in our consent order. But the structure just collapsed. So we have gone through that system. We've replaced that manhole, and we've also gone and lined all of the manholes in there. I don't know that we went all the way down to the pump station, but we worked on all the ones that showed signs of degradation with a mainstay product.
Protective coating for H2S.
And it's, and I've got a sample of it, and it's thick. It's not just kind of a thin spray-on liner.
Correct.
So, but that was that done before you
Before I
got
got
here?
here.
So you came in 2021, so it was probably done around 2020.
Okay.
But, Seneca's had they've had a study done.
Sure.
We don't know you know, it's one of these things where you
I
just try
watched the
to,
oil field spend millions.
Yeah.
trying to deal with this.
you know,
It's
we
just-
got our own issue, so we had our own study done at a pump station that's even further downstream. And the recommendation for us, and it'll be discussed in the budgetary process, is we've got $1 million project for us to add, is it liquid lime at the Martin Creek pump station? So, you know, because what we're using there is apparently not effective, and which is the same thing that Seneca Light Water is using, which is bleach, a bleach injection feed. So, you know, it may not be that's the solution. But yeah, we don't know what to do. We don't know what changed here. We don't, you know, but
Nobody
we've
else
had,
does either, really.
you know, I know, and they have a
It's tough.
contractor that's managing it for them, but from what we, you know, I think there was a time that the bleach run out for the contractor, you know, this was a year ago, maybe, I don't remember, the bleach ran out, and then when we had a freeze, I think one of the lines ruptured, and it, you know, the bleach wasn't able to be injected, as it, you know, as it should because of the freezing weather. So, but DHEC, or the Department of Environmental Services now, is on us about it. You know, they're receiving complaints about it. Senator Alexander's received complaints about it. And then now, you know, you heard at that meeting where Matthew Durham and county councils getting calls about it, from owners over there. Well, the thing with that too is that's, you know, as an aside, that's what we're gonna be dealing with the interstate sewer project, with the lack of turnover of flow that we're gonna have down that way. That's why a heavy emphasis was put on that discussion during that presentation, is we're talking like 8 days of retention time in the force main before that force main turns over. So when I think that engineers, you know, best practices call for it to turn over every 4 hours.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
but that's where we are with that, but I don't know what the fix is with it, but, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know if y'all had a conversation again with Will Nading about it with Garver that did your study, but it may be to reach back out to Will and get his thoughts, let him know, you know, what we're seeing, because the meters that we have, Mr. Hinkle, that we have just, you know, out there now, we still have some in the manholes themselves, but we also have, we purchased maybe a year and a half ago, and we call them, what is it, bird feeders?
We call them bird feeder.
But they hang, and you may have seen these, but they hang out in the ambient air, and we have them, they're hung, you know, 4 or 5 feet above the ground out there, and they're able to detect and document in the parts per trillion.
Billion.
Parts per
Yes.
billion, I'm already thinking ahead, PFAS. So, you know, we're, they're sensitive, and, you know, again, the graphs that we had, the last round that we had that we pulled, which was New Year's Eve, right before we had that complaint, was that that was a time that was all but non-existent.
Do they make a meter that would monitor the odor?
No, I don't, I think that's what we have to,
That-
you may know, but we, you know, the closest thing we can do is the hydrogen sulfide, because there's no, what is it? The state doesn't, or there's no odor regulation,
I know.
you know,
Yeah.
so it
But
has
that's
to be-
what the people are, that's what's
Right.
getting them stirred up.
Mhm.
That's right.
And
So,
we're trying to,
And that's why we got the parts per billion to put above the manhole, because that's what they're smelling. But if we get a sulfur logger inside, it's gonna be a live, reading of the sulfides, and again, the higher the sulfides, the more production of H2S you would have. So it's a kind of, we're gonna be able to see the time frames and everything with
that's
this.
right, that's right, that's what I'm getting at.
So-
That's right, that's what I'm getting at.
How are those, how are they powered, battery?
Battery.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was looking into, and they said that they had a battery pack, and so that's what I said, I want to demo it before we spend
Yeah.
12, 13,000
All the
dollars.
batteries last, all that.
That's right.
But the question with that though is, it monitors, but can it communicate?
It's a cellular.
Okay, so
So
it
it can actually, yeah,
Good deal. Okay.
it should be like the hot meter. It's go, I guess, gather, every 15 minutes or something like that. And then every 6 hours it'll upload that
Say
data.
it's to upload to a collector
Yeah.
somewhere, and then you're getting that
That's right.
information.
Have y'all looked into have y'all yet looked into the grease? Have y'all gone out there and looked at grease in the wet wells?
I haven't, I'd have to talk to them.
Have talked to Chris,
Yeah.
we've discussed it, so they usually take care of stuff, but
Yeah, check on that, let us know what that is out there too, because that's a very likely culprit of it, is the grease. I don't think y'all have brought it here, if it's been collected out of the wet well, I don't think it's been disposed of here.
I don't know, Chris didn't, he said they'd reviewed it, he didn't act like it was a huge problem, but I don't, I just have to revisit that one. You don't know if they've been shot.
No, I'd have to reach out to Chris.
All right, that's all I had for that one. Do you have anything else you can think of, Kyle? Regulatory compliance type related?
So I'm working on our final data for 2024. I'm still waiting on some numbers from Rogers. But the only thing, again, we had an issue, y'all remember back in February when CWS, we had an ammonia issue, and then CWS wrote a letter saying it was on their side. So, we never got a violation for it because they determined it wasn't our fault here. But I'm working on putting the data together to send everything in for basically our awards and stuff. So right now, we had 0 violations last year. That was for the plant. So
It's good, guys. It's really good. And again, we're working on a project to get rid of the ammonia and go with,
that's
chlorine.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what the-
the chlorine, the PAA. That's what we're working on to get rid of the chlorine gas.
Where,
Yeah, I hadn't emailed them. I talked with Goldie, but I hadn't emailed Sohail. Everything going on.
so, all right, the sewer use regulation, so I've got it in here already. So it was this sent out with the packet. So Exhibit B is an email that I received on Monday afternoon. And that's what triggered, that modification to the agenda, but fortunately enough, it's in here already. That we heard back from Casey Jarman with the Department of Environmental Services, and she completed the review of our draft permit, and everything seemed to be satisfactory to her except for 4 items, and that was what I put in that email, or in this exhibit for you, was the email that she sent back to me. So we've already gone ahead, and I forwarded those to Michael Trainum, our attorney, and number 1 has been addressed. That's an easy one, a correction for a definition. Number 2, we want what we want our regulation to say, the intent of it is that right now we don't have any option but to take the paper copies. But in the event that there is an EPA approved means to receive or for the industries to enter that data electronically, instead of having to do it by paper, and then it be considered a legal document. I mean, because right now we have to receive the wet signature on these as they're considered to be a legal document and enforceable. So if and when we can get to the point where there is an electronic means that would remove this burden from Allison, because I think she has to do a transcription from the paper document into an electronic format on our end. We wanna be able to have that without having to go and revise the regulation again to address it at that time. So, Michael made a couple of suggestions for language, and that was sent down to Casey yesterday afternoon for her consideration. Number 3, I think Michael has addressed that. Number 4, Michael said that he felt that what we had in there, since our penalty was at $2,000 a day, he felt that we at least are in the amount of $1,000 a day because we're above the $1,000 a day. So he had a question about that, that I passed on to Casey to find out, if she said we have to have a minimum of 1,000, but we already have a 2,000 established in there, what more do we need to do to get it to where she needs it to be? Other than that, I think she was okay with everything. But once I hear back from her on that, then it really will need to go back, it'll need to go to the board for consideration to put out for public notice and receive comments from the public before it can be considered an enforceable regulation. Any questions about the sewer use regulation updates, or email or actions with Casey and Michael Train, our attorney?
I imagine up there on number 1, I mean, there's so many places that the department, or the old acronym for the Department of Environmental Services, having to change that to find all those places, that would take a while.
Well, when the regulation went into effect, and I think it went into effect in October of 2023, it was before the DHEC split
Yeah.
and became the Department of Environmental Services. So when it went into effect at that time, that was still the appropriate name for the agency, but we also had what we felt was the cover in there where it said like the approval authority is the Department of Environmental Health or any successor agency. So we made sure that we covered it. Well, I guess since we revised it, and that was one, most of the others that we went through it, we did change it. That was one that we missed, so we did go and make that correction. Number 3, I passed this out today. This was not sent out in the packet, but the technical fact sheet, we received this from the EPA, and we received this earlier this month. And this is just a draft document, but it is, as you notice, it is the human health ambient water quality criteria for contaminants of emerging concern. And I think really the biggest takeaway on this thing, read it if you like.
I'll wait for tonight and I'll go to sleep.
Yeah. But the biggest takeaway as you look through this, you have some of these items, if not all of them, that are measured in the parts per trillion range. And I don't even know that there are approved methods yet for monitoring these, but no matter what,
They're digging deep with this.
yes, no matter what, this very likely will impact future permits that we have. I don't know that it's gonna be the one that we're still waiting on. We're currently operating under an expired permit, and that's with the approval of the agency to do so. We are waiting to get comments back for the draft or the documentation that we sent in there for the renewal of our permit. So we're still operating off of the standards established under that prior one. But we have been told that, that we may need to require, that there may be a placeholder in the new permit for PFAS or contaminants of emerging concerns in it, that we may have to open the permit back up. Is this what you've heard, Kyle? Sometime during the 5-year period of our, once it's issued, it may have to be opened back up to establish standards.
Of course, we have to work to what we have right here and here now, but it's possible in the next 4 years, something would be taken back to the billions instead of the trillion, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, and this is something I know KCI on Horsing, Holcim, McCormick and Wallace was kind of on the front end on it. I don't know if, Steve, if y'all heard anything more. I put you on the spot, because he doesn't know I was gonna ask him about this, and I don't even know if this is his, an area of his expertise.
I'm working a few projects on it. Most of the regulations on the PFAS and emerging contaminants right now that are being enforced are on the water plant side, on the potable side. But I do definitely see the regulations coming on the biosolids disposal side and on the effluent side. So those are both going to be coming here. And Chris, I agree with you. I don't think it'll be on your current permit that's getting issued, but I imagine will at least be monitoring, if not regulated, on the next one that comes out.
And we've already begun sampling here and sending off to get those, a baseline, basically. So I just got bottles in last week, and then we'll be doing it in this month.
Yep.
Our second sample.
It's been suggested to us that we begin quarterly monitoring, so that's where I've just gone ahead and said we're just gonna go ahead and begin
What
doing
were
it.
you
So we've
saying?
got,
I was fixing to say,
There's a lab in Georgia. There's only 2 labs in the United States right now that I'm aware of.
That can measure
That
in the
can
tree
actually,
level?
that can actually
Good Lord.
do that testing.
and this is on the water coming in to the plant.
Yeah, we're doing influent, effluent, and the biosolids.
So the water coming in would be, the source of it, obviously, but y'all don't have it, I think what Steve mentioned earlier is true. The focus right now is trying to get it where it's gonna have the most impact on human life and health, which is on the drinking water consumption side. But I don't believe that there's any issues
We've had
with
multiple
any.
tests done, and there is 0.
So if it's, we would think that if if we see it coming into the plant, it would be introduced somewhere along the way, either through industry and or some type of consumer product that the residents, that.
I think Allison and them made technically the industries that discharge to a test there. And from my understanding, every one of them come out with a hit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd imagine too, it's filled with 2 kidneys as well.
So it's, what the industries are sending to us, we go have a.
Yeah, but I know that, the industries themselves are trying, they're working to reduce the materials that they use that would be producers of this. So that's, I know that is being done. And I could be wrong, I could be mistaken about this, because seems like there's something new being discussed every day. But the way they talk like this, that this is something, these so-called, I think you've heard them called forever chemicals. And, Steve, again, maybe know more about this, probably does know more about this than me, but that from what I've heard, the bulk of this may be kind of behind us as far as what's being produced. Is this what you've heard too, that it's been stripped?
Right. A lot of the major manufacturers, so the first way the EPA attacked this was forcing all the major manufacturers that produce these chemicals, so in the Gore-Tex and the Teflon and the firefighting foams, and those were some of the big ones, they're all either have changed or in the process of changing to not produce these chemicals. And so I think that's already in the works, that they're being taken out of production, so they're not being produced anymore. But at the same time with that, I think, speaking personally here, one of the issues that I think we will continue to see is, okay, now that they've found this new chemical to get the water repellent or to get the fire retardant, is that now going to be a carcinogen? Is that going to be an unhealthy chemical for us? And then, okay, so now the list is going to keep growing of all the chemicals that we need to be removing from the water and from the wastewater streams, trying to keep it out of the environment. But it's just going to be a continuous cycle. And
From what I see too is like it's prevalent in the environment that's not in the water, like carpet, I think is a makeup, I think in the cosmetic industry, it was.
Oh, pharmaceuticals.
Right.
You had,
You're
like,
saying-
just dust. I
Yeah.
think it just.
I think a
so
good
it's-
historic example would be asbestos. Asbestos wasn't everything. Now it's not.
Yeah.
But you still, you come across it if you do a renovation of an old building or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or, lead in the paint, another good example. So it's just, it's in that cycle of now, okay, it's no longer being produced, that's been regulated out. But now it's, getting the treatment, getting it, keeping the environment clean.
So one of the items you brought up was Gore-Tex. The
Mhm.
water repellent Gore-Tex is an issue?
One of the, I believe, one of the chemicals used in the creation of Gore-Tex, yes.
Okay.
So that they've had to, they still call it Gore-Tex, but they have actually changed the chemical makeup of it.
Okay.
So Gore-Tex from 10 years ago is not the same Gore-Tex that it is now.
Okay.
So they've changed that
Interesting.
chemical makeup.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got plenty of jackets and boots.
Yeah,
and
right.
water.
Oh, yeah.
All over it.
It's
So
a
if I get
fantastic
wet,
material.
I'm gonna go to jail, I
Just don't eat, don't start eating it.
guess. Yeah, exactly right.
All right, Chris, what else you got on the miscellaneous?
The miscellaneous, just, wanted to welcome Mr. Hinkle to the committee and to the board. And, I know there'll be a lot you'll need to learn and have questions about, so feel free to stick around anytime, ask me questions, set up a meeting, get a plant tour with Kyle or Johnny.
Absolutely, I will
We'll get
do
you
that.
caught up as quickly as we can, and then following this meeting, we have a called executive committee meeting, and, with one item on the agenda, and that is essentially to authorize Lawrence Flynn to go ahead and begin looking into some of the items that were discussed at the ad hoc committee meeting. So, I don't think I need to or even can unilaterally make that decision. We'd have him do that. I think it would have more weight if it had the buy-in of the board, but it's just too quick of a turnaround to call for a special board meeting. So this does qualify for executive committee consideration, and then it'll be taken to the full board at the February
February.
3rd meeting. And it may be that by that time, Mr. Flynn has some options for
Yeah, I
consideration.
read the minutes, I saw that.
So that's all I have.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, we'll move on to the next item, which is, members' discussion. Disappointed that Larry didn't bring anything for us today, but, other than that. Well, that's David that suggested that anyway, so they'll both get on it for us. So anyway, we got upcoming meetings and, Larry, if you haven't figured this out, we get together every, is it second Tuesday, second Wednesday, the third?
Third Wednesday.
Third
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
Third Wednesday.
So that's, is everybody good with that
Yeah.
for the 19th?
Where we're gonna do it at here.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's always here.
Oh, if I do, I do have one other miscellaneous thing, if I may bring that back up.
Oh, too late.
Okay. So, we, as part of our, the feasibility requirements that we had that was adopted, we have to, I think the date is March 10th, 2025. We have to have completed our rate assessment and cost of service study done that Wildan has been working on. I heard from Daryl Parker yesterday, and we knew that he wasn't gonna be able to attend the February 3rd board meeting because I think he was gonna be on vacation at that time. So we thought that he would be making a presentation to the board at the March 3rd board meeting. Well, after hearing from him yesterday, he has an obligation then too. So with this being a board matter, because it is gonna heavily involve rates, and there's gonna be a model, a presentation he's gonna do that would allow him to manipulate some of the inputs to adjust and see how, different projects that we may take on would impact rates. This really does need to be done with the board, but with time being of the essence from both the standpoint that we have that deadline we committed to RIA with, March 10th, plus the need to put together, start building the budget for fiscal year 2026. It may be, and this was one of the things that was discussed yesterday with Angie Metlin and Daryl, to have a special meeting for that sometime in February. So what I'll do, I may do it, I may have Amanda Kelly do it, is reach out to all the commissioners and find out. It's gonna be hard to try to find when we have 9 people that are all gonna be available at the same time. But, so just be on the lookout for an email from Amanda or myself, and just respond back as quickly as you can so that we can go ahead and lock up that. And plus, Daryl's out of Florida, so he's gotta make accommodations to come, to travel and stay up here for the presentation. So the sooner we know something, we get it locked in, the better. That would be.
Okay.
I'd like to go ahead and try to find that time before we have the next board meeting on February 3rd, and have a date locked in for it. That's all.
Anything else?
That's all, I promise.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all 4 stand up and get out of here.
Now, who's gotta be who is recommended to be at this meeting?
That's Mr. Secretary.
At 9